Hi, I'm John Feldt, and this is the Weekly Water Outlook. It was a very busy week last week with Hurricane Isaac moving into Louisiana, producing flooding, then further north into Missouri and other parts of the Midwest that needed that rain quite a bit. This week is going to be a lot less active, very quiet over large parts of the nation, receiving very little, if any, rainfall. Now, an exception will be the northeast U.S. that will receive a soaking rain and some scattered showers and thunderstorms over the southeast U.S. Stay tuned to this week's edition of the Weekly Water Outlook. Well, by far, this was the big water story of the week. Hurricane Isaac moved into the Gulf region and then eventually moved into Louisiana and Mississippi, producing widespread flooding. Pretty dramatic picture as it went from a tropical storm to a hurricane right before it moved inland. Now, here's the track of Hurricane Isaac as of the time of this recording. You can see the track it took. Originally, it looked like it might move into the northeast Gulf Coast, but steering winds did bring it right in towards New Orleans, and then up northward towards Arkansas, eventually into Missouri, and then now it's going through an extratropical transition, which means it's going more into a synoptic type system and moving up into the eventually the northeast U.S., that tropical moisture, and bringing some very soaking rainfall throughout this week. Now, here's the rain from Tropical Storm and Hurricane Isaac. And this is the path right here. You can sort of see how it came up. You can see the spiral bands here, the deformation zone on the north side of the circulation. The red is 5 to 8 inches of rain. The purple is 10 inches or more. In fact, New Orleans received about 20 inches of rain. So the most extensive flooding was right here where that very heavy rain occurred. And then as it went through Arkansas, got into very dry air in this, or dry soils in this region, and most of that was absorbed. It received 2 to 4 inches of rain, some cases heavier amounts, but that was really needed in that region. Now, the percent of normal rainfall from last week, you can really see that if Isaac wasn't in the picture last week, most of the country would be extremely dry. Now, the areas in red, that's only 25% or less of normal, and the dark red is actually only 5% or less. Many of those areas received no rain at all. So really, other than Isaac, it's been a very quiet week, a very dry week last week across the western and much of the central U.S. Over the far eastern part of the U.S., like we've seen for a number of weeks now, we've had areas in red and blue, and that means scattered type precipitation. Some areas receiving rainfall, other areas not. Now, before Isaac moved into the Midwest, this was how much additional precipitation was needed to bring the Palmer Drought Index back to about normal. And we needed anywhere from 12 to over 15 inches. That's that purple. That's a lot of rain. And I know there was a lot of hope that it would bring 8 inches of rain or so. And unfortunately, it just didn't bring that much rain to that area. Any wet rain is definitely welcome, but it really did a little bit to help the drought, but not nearly enough to get us back to where conditions would be anywhere near normal. Now, the latest drought monitor, this was from August 28th. I've overlaid on here the area that received the heaviest rain from Isaac so far. And I guess the good news is it didn't move over an area that was extremely dry, at least some of that area. And in there, about 2 to 5 inches of rain, some isolated higher amounts. But keep in mind, that's nowhere close to that 12 to 15 inches of rain it would take to get rid of all that red. But still, I think when the next drought monitor comes out, it will have some impact. It'll help a bit. Okay, let's talk about this week, what's expected. Well, September can be a quiet month. If we don't get tropical activity, it can be one of the very quiet months of the year. This week, it looks like the jet stream is going to be over the northern tier of the U.S. It's going to be fairly flat, so it's not going to be as active as it has been in the past. Now, I did mention that some of that tropical moisture from Isaac would be moving along that into the northeast U.S., and that will bring some fairly soaking rains over the eastern, mid-Atlantic, and northeast U.S. Otherwise, south of that jet stream, it looks like it's going to be a very quiet week. So for the most part, I think the story will be quiet. Now, the high pressure that has been sort of blocking tropical systems from the East Coast, that's has diminished very significantly over the last week. We have a tropical system out there, and it might, as we get into the peak of September, the hurricane season, possibility that could open up a larger part of the U.S. for a possible landfall should a tropical system move into that area. Now, speaking of tropical steering winds, they've changed over the last week a bit. Most of the systems have been moving east to west across the south of Florida and then into the Gulf. Most of them are moving east to west into Mexico. Now, Isaac was an exception, rotated around very close to the Atlantic high and brought it up into the central Gulf. Right now, with that high weakening, we have a couple possibilities. The one that Leslie's going to take is going to move right along the outside of that high and pull it up towards the north. It should miss the U.S., but there's still, if it comes in a little bit lower, it could still come east to west into the Gulf of Mexico. So I think right now, as we get into the peak of hurricane season, without that real strong dominating high, I think it just opens up a large part of the U.S. should something occur. There are many more scenarios on where it might go than there were the last couple of weeks. But right now, nothing really is imminent on in the horizon. Leslie is forecast to move north, eventually northeast. It should remain away from the U.S. Now, the rainfall potential this week, I said it's going to be a quiet week, so large parts of the area, once again, it's just amazing how long it's been since there's been a significant rain over parts of the western U.S. When I say no significant rain in the western U.S., that might mean no rain over the next week, another week with very little, if any, rain. Texas also looks quite dry. Now, over the southeast U.S., we've had some muggy air over us for a long time, and with the heat of the day, there will be scattered daily thunderstorms that'll probably keep soil moisture holding its own, probably not gaining any ground, but might not be losing a whole lot of ground either. Most rain this week looks like it'll be in the northeast U.S. as that upper impulse and that jet stream taps a little bit of the moisture from Isaac and produces 2 to 4 inches of rain in that area. But overall, across the nation, looks like a very quiet week. So the takeaway points from this week's weekly water outlook: relatively quiet week, soaking rains across the northeast U.S., extremely dry once again over the western U.S. and parts of Texas. Scattered thunderstorms will continue over the southeast U.S., and even though Leslie is forecast to intensify, right now it is not expected to reach the U.S. This has been the week's weekly water outlook from Blue Water Outlook. If you'd like notice of updates to this, go to bluewateroutlook.com and you can subscribe. I will be updating this next week about this time. Thank you.